Here's the truth about running a multi-million dollar real estate portfolio from anywhere in the world. What does that mean? You can have hundreds or thousands of units across the country, hundreds of thousands of tenants across the country, but you can be anywhere. I know, Gabe, you and I were in Fiji last year. I think you're going on another exotic vacation here. You travel, I travel, we do fun things, but we have hundreds and hundreds of rental units. Well, how do you do that? Because a lot of people that are listening to that are thinking, especially if they might have like a couple single family rental homes, they're like, well, how in the hell would I do that? How do I run applications if the lawn needs to be mowed or a toilet needs to be repaired? Like, how do I do that? How do I collect rent? How do I do this if I have hundreds of these units or thousands of these units, and how do I do it anywhere in the world? And it's not rocket science. It's actually not that difficult, but I think it really comes down to a mindset shift, meaning real estate's a team sport. What do you think, Gabe? Like, how do you do it? And like, we can tactics we both use.
Yeah, I'll tell you how I've done it. I mean, I've traveled all over the world. I mean, yeah, you mentioned we were in Fiji together. You know, us and our wives and some other friends. We rented an entire private island. We've actually been renting private islands the last 5 years with friends, and real estate has allowed that. But real estate has allowed, like financially, real estate has allowed that. But it's all like we talk about the financial freedom piece, but also the time freedom piece of real estate. So real estate has not only allowed us to be able to travel all over the world from a financial standpoint, but real estate's allowed us to travel all over the world from a time standpoint. Real estate's been very good to me, but it wasn't always that way. I mean, I shared the story of like, I had this big vision, but early on, I mean, I was working a 30-hour a week minimum wage job. I share that all the time because when I replaced my income, I was bringing home less than $1,500 a month. So it's not like from the get-go, I lived this lifestyle and real estate was able to support the travel or the time for that matter. I used to self-manage my properties. I used to be the one that screened tenants. I used to be the one that made repairs or found people that made the repairs. And so it's twofold. Like in those early years, and there's nothing wrong with starting this way, but I see a lot of people stay in this small mindset and playing small. I think it's actually easier to play big, especially once your mind is around that. At 17 units is when I finally turned my properties over to property management. And that year was the first time I bought a 10 unit or above property. I was set on, I'm going to buy 10 units or above. I bought an 11 unit apartment that year. But it was not only a mindset shift of like, hey, my best use of time, energy is not to be spent managing the properties, but I'm actually good at building relationships. I'm good at putting deals together. I'm going to hire property management. So as my portfolio has grown over time, yes, it's given me the freedom of time and the freedom of money to go do a lot of really, really cool things. But it wasn't until I realized what I was better at, which was putting deals together, and I stopped playing small. And when I stopped playing small, I'm able to put people in place, hire property managers. I have people in place that they're running the applications. They're screening the tenants. They're in charge of all the maintenance and repairs and the contractors, anything that needs to get done. And these people are earning, these property managers, they're earning a great percentage of rent. So they're working hard, working on your asset to improve the property, to improve rents, to make repairs. So it's like mutually beneficial. It's great for the tenants, it's great for the property managers, and it's great for me as the owner of the property. So I can focus on putting more deals together and living the life I want rather than just, swinging a hammer or dealing with tenants on a daily basis. If you have 5 properties and one thing goes wrong and you're the person that the tenant has to go to, it's hard. Like you're the one person, like you're the bottleneck. It would be hard to go, travel the world if you're the one person they call and shit hits the fan.
Well, yeah. And when you buy properties and you're starting small and you get bad tenants in, shit sometimes does literally hit the fan. Mitch has some pretty cool stories about dog shit all over the walls of his property. But yeah, I mean, I think people that might be listening to this are like, well, how do I hire all these people? I can't afford, I have nothing. I can barely pay for gas and, buy groceries, and like times are tough and things are expensive. How do I go hire people? Well, I think people don't understand that in real estate, you have leverage. Leverage, I mean, they say real estate is the most leverageable asset in the world. And I believe that. But a lot of times people think that's just because you can borrow from the bank to buy a property. Well, with real estate, you leverage people as well. Now, these people right now, as we're just recording this podcast, I have brokers and wholesalers looking for properties for me. I have title people working on acquisition and refinances for me. I have lawyers working on operating agreements. I have bookkeepers that are managing the expense, managing the books of these properties. I've got all of my properties have an on-site property manager that reports to an asset manager, then that reports to us. All of these people have the systems. They're way better at this shit than I am. But I don't, when you're starting out, you don't have to pay these people. You pay property managers out of the cash flow of the property, right? Lawyers, yes, you do have to pay them, but usually there's ways to offset that from the income on the property. Brokers only get paid when you close on a property.
I want to interrupt you. I want to interrupt you a second and just like really focus on why that's important. Like we talk about, we have large portfolios. I don't have a huge team. Like I don't have a bunch of employees, but I do have people on my team that work for me in the sense that exactly like what you're talking about, Travis. Like a good property manager, like is incentivized because they get paid a percentage of gross rents. They're incentivized to keep properties nice. They're incentivized to take care of the tenants. They're incentivized to fill the units to increase revenue. Because not only is it good for you as the owner, it's also good for them. And that's same with an agent. Like there's a lot of agents that are not great. I was speaking at a local event and talking about this thing, but one of my local agents showed up and she had so much value. Like when I'm buying or selling a property, I don't buy a lot locally anymore. But when I'm selling off some of my smaller properties, and she makes it so seamless for me. She has maintenance people. She has a general contractor. She knows how to like improve the curb appeal, and I can fully trust her to do that. What benefit is to her? She adds so much fucking value that she's either able to get a better price or she knows I'm going to go back to her every single time and use her when I want to sell a property, and she's earning a commission off that. She's not my employee. She has her own business, but she benefits from adding as much value as possible. So she's a member of my team, not an employee, but a member of my team of her own business, because it's mutually beneficial for her to add as much value to my business and to my life as possible. And then everybody wins in that scenario.
If you like what you're hearing on this podcast and want to come and hang out with us, as well as other members who are scaling in cash flow real estate, you've got to check out our Elite Mastermind. Inside, we've got investors who own hundreds of millions of dollars in real estate and are doing amazing things. We'd love for you to come join us. Click the link below.
Well, you mentioned win-win. I love that about real estate. I call myself a social capitalist. A good deal means the bankers win. They're making interest on your money. Or the money they lend you. Property managers are making income based on the rent they collect, which benefits you because you have a property that's cash flowing, but they're incentivized to take good care of their tenants and provide good customer service and improve the property, so your tenants win. If you have investors investing alongside you, you're providing a return for them. They win and you win. And I think I've always been a firm believer that that's when things work. Again, people might be listening to this like, well, how do I get from here to there? I have a few rental properties. I might be cash flowing. I might not be. I have some equity. Well, we always look at people, at least in our Elite Mastermind, like let's look at the equity that you have in these smaller properties. Maybe you're cash flowing break even or you're a bit negative and you're spending a bunch of time. How do you tap that equity? How do you sell it, 1031 it, buy larger properties? By the way, larger properties create a lot more revenue, which allow you to then hire a property manager, right? So maybe look at your equity, roll that equity into a larger property that generates sufficient cash flow that pays for the manager to manage that property. And now you're managing that manager. Now you're an asset manager. You're not running applications. You're not calling contractors. You're not doing any of that shit. You're getting on the call with them maybe once a month, maybe once a week to start, looking at collections, looking at the financials, talking about higher level issues, but really talking about strategy around the property, not the day-to-day. And any business owner, whether you own real estate assets or a business, they will tell you that they succeed when they get really great people in that are better than them and get the hell out of the way. And that frees them up to be more strategic on the property. So there is a bit of a stair step. You might start out managing a property.
And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Look, I started buying real estate. I wasn't doing the things that I get to do today. And I also want to emphasize something. Like I spoke at this local event and, I really, really pushed hard on the time freedom aspect of real estate. I really want our listeners to understand it's it's not about the money. It's about the freedom of time. Like the driver for me is autonomy. And I got to share, I got to share a lot of personal stories. And one of those stories was, yes, I just shared that we've rented private islands and done all this cool stuff. We got to travel and I have a bunch of really cool trips coming up. But when it really hit hard for me was when before my dad passed away, and I got to sit with him every single day before he passed away. And I didn't have to decide between going to a job or missing time with my dad. I didn't have to choose between trading my time for money or having time with my dad. And to me, that's a whole nother level of time freedom. When I was young, I remember really thinking like it was about the money. I wanted to be wealthy. In my early or late teens, early 20s, I had this like innate desire, this innate like to build wealth, to be rich, I would think. And then I was on a walk one day and I was like, why? Why is it so important to me? Why do I have this just strong innate desire to build wealth and be free? And the light bulb went off. And it wasn't about the money. It was about the freedom. It was about the autonomy. I wanted to be able to spend time with my wife, spend time with my kids. I wanted to do what I wanted to do on a daily basis, a weekly basis. And years later, when I fast forward to before my dad passed away, to have that time with him, there is no value on that. Like there is no value I can put on that. Like that was so invaluable to be able to spend every day with him up until the day he died. And when my wife's mom got sick and when her stepdad passed away, like to be able to have the freedom of time to do that. And Travis, I know you and Mitch, and you've had, instances in your life where you've needed to go spend time with family and you don't have to second guess it. You don't have to decide between going to work and not being able to spend time with family. And I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but like I really, at this local event, I really wanted to make that clear that it wasn't just about going out and doing cool shit. That's a piece of it. But when you dig one layer deeper, in almost any conversation with anyone in real estate or not in real estate that talk about financial freedom or what they want real estate to do for them, it usually, one layer deep, it usually comes down to time freedom and autonomy, being able to do what they want to do, when they want, where they want, with who they want. And I just want to like beat that point like until it's really understood, because that's the ultimate, the goal isn't to buy a Lambo, which if you want a Lambo, fine, right? Like you want a yacht, fine. You want a private jet, fine. I'm not shitting on that. Nothing wrong with that. But the real value, the true currency of the rich is time. All right, done with my tangent.
No, I like tangents. They're good. I mean, I have a perfect example. I mean, and I take this for granted sometimes because I've been free for a long time, but yeah, I also have a personal family member that's going through some serious health issues right now. Someone that I love dearly. And last week, she had a major surgery and I needed to be in Portland with my family supporting them. I didn't think twice about, requesting time off, burning up vacation or whatever the hell type of leave you got to code it as. Like I just went. And I went, and while I went, I had my asset managers managing my on-site managers. I had my bookkeepers keeping the books current. I had brokers looking for more properties. I had lenders and title people working for me. I didn't think twice about it. And by the way, I have all of my tenants, unfortunately for them, I guess, or fortunately, because it's good, I guess, but they're getting up, going to work and paying rent. And so for people that are listening, I think they're like, well, okay, great guys. Like, yeah, absolutely. Like, how do I get there? I've got a couple of rental properties. I don't see it. The more properties I buy, the more single family rental properties that I buy, or the more small duplexes, the more work it's going to be, the more I'm going to be tied to my local location. And I would say like, this is the framework at a high level. If you got equity and maybe a small handful of properties, tap that equity, sell 1031, whatever, refinance, lines of credit, whatever, get access to some of that equity, right? And then go learn all you can about commercial real estate, learn about forced appreciation, learn about cash flow, learn about underwriting, learn the fundamentals, which by the way is not rocket science. If you know how to add and subtract, you can figure that out. Get really good at an asset class. Maybe pick multifamily apartments. We like mobile home parks. Gabe, you're a triple net industrial guy or a triple net guy, right? Learn about an asset class, get really good about it, learn about it, and then start building a team. Start talking to brokers, start talking to wholesalers, start underwriting deals, learn as much as you can, right? And they're going to start working for you to find you your next commercial asset, right? You buy that commercial asset, it generates enough cash flow to hire an on-site property manager, on-site caretaker, or maybe a third-party property manager that gets paid out of the rents. And now you become an asset manager. Now you're managing the asset. You're not doing the day-to-day crap. And then continue to scale your portfolio. And then someday hire an asset manager. And that's where I'm at now. I have an asset manager that manages all my on-site managers. And that's really the formula. And get in a community. This is probably where you're going to jump in. And also get into a group, whether it's the 0 to 100 Elite Mastermind or get into something else. Like, get into a community that has the contacts with brokers and wholesalers, has the good bookkeepers, has the good real estate title people, are networking with people in asset classes that you're interested in. And just by proximity, being around people like this is going to change your mindset. And you're going to start thinking a lot differently about how you spend your time building your portfolio. And then you can spend your time doing whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, just to put a bow on it and kind of come full circle. I mean, the last thing I was going to say is, someone is grinding away. Maybe they have 2, 3, 4, 5 rental properties, and they're thinking like, this is hard. Like, how could I do this with 20? How could I do this with 50? But you have economies of scale with 3, 4, 5, self-managed properties. It is hard when you're doing it all yourself. But when you have 20 units, 30 units, 50 units, and people look at us like we're absolutely crazy when we say buying commercial properties is easier than buying smaller single family homes or small multifamily properties. I had my own real estate. I had my own real estate agent. Yeah, my own real estate agent looked at me like I was crazy when I said that. But just to kind of put a bow on it, you have these economies of scale where the property is producing enough where you can hire a property manager, where you can hire someone to run the properties. Because a lot of people get into real estate because they want that freedom. And then they're just in another hamster wheel. They're trying to replace their W-2, or they're trying to replace their income in some way, their corporate job, whatever it might be. And then they get into real estate and they're like, wow, this is hard too. And now they're managing these properties, but with economies of scale. And it's why we say having larger properties, like when you have larger properties, commercial properties, the properties can support operations. The property can support property management. The property can support maintenance and repair. And it's not you having to swing a hammer. So you actually not only get to build more wealth through cash flow real estate, you also get your time back and you get your life back.